When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit by Judith Kerr, Chapter 16. One Thursday afternoon, a few weeks after Anna had started school, she and Mama went to visit Great Aunt Sarah. Great Aunt Sarah was old Mama's sister, but had married a Frenchman, now deceased, and had lived in Paris for 30 years. Mama, who had not seen her since she was a little girl, put on her best clothes for the occasion. She looked very young and pretty in her good coat and her blue hat with the veil. And as they walked toward the Avenue Foch, where Great Aunt Sarah lived, several people turned around to look at her. Anna had put on her best clothes, too. She was wearing the sweater Mama had knitted, her new shoes and socks, and Uncle Julius's bracelet, but her skirt and coat were horribly short. Mama sighed, as always, at the sight of Anna and her outdoor things. "I'll have to ask Madame Fernand to do something with your coat," she said. "If you grow any more, it won't even cover your pants." "What could Madame Fernand do?" asked Anna. "I don't know, stitch a bit of material around the hem or something," said Mama. "I wish I knew how to do these things like her." Mama and Papa had been to dinner with the Fernands the previous week, and Mama had come back bursting with admiration. In addition to being a wonderful cook, Madame Fernand made all her own and her daughter's clothes. She had reupholstered a sofa and made her husband a beautiful dressing gown. She had even made him some pajamas when he could not find the color he wanted in the shops. "And she does it all so easily," said Mama, for whom sewing on a button was a major undertaking, "as though it weren't work at all." Madame Fernand had offered to help with Anna's clothes, too, but Mama had felt perhaps that would be too much to accept. Now, however, seeing Anna stick out of her coat in all directions, she changed her mind. "I will ask her," she said. "If she just showed me how to do it, perhaps I could manage it myself." By this time they had arrived at their destination. Great Aunt Sarah lived in a large house set back from the road. They had to cross a courtyard planted with trees to reach it, and the concierge who directed them to her flat wore a uniform with gold buttons and braid. Great Aunt Sarah's lift was made of plate glass and carried them swiftly upward without any of the groans and shudders Anna was used to, and her front door was opened by a maid in a frilly white apron and cap. "I'll tell Madame you're here," said the maid, and Mama sat on a little velvet chair while the maid went into what must be the dressing room. As she opened the door, they could hear a buzz of voices, and Mama looked worried and said, "I hope this is the right day." But almost at once the door opened again, and Great Aunt Sarah ran out. She was a stout old lady, but she moved at a brisk trot, and for a moment Anna wondered whether she would be able to stop when she reached them. "Nah!" she cried, throwing her arms round Mama. "So here you are at last! Such a long time I haven't seen you, and such dreadful things happening in Germany. Still you're safe, and well, that's all that matters." She relapsed into another velvet chair, overflowing on all sides, and said to Anna, "Do you know the last time I saw your Mama she was only a little girl, and now she has a little girl of her own. What's your name?" "Anna," said Anna. "Hannah, how nice! A good Jewish name," said Great Aunt Sarah. "No, Anna," said Anna. "Oh, Anna, that's a nice name too. You must excuse me," said Great Aunt Sarah, leaning perilously toward her on a little chair. "But I'm a bit deaf." Her eyes took in Anna properly for the first time, and she looked astonished. "Goodness!" she exclaimed. "Such long legs you have. Aren't you cold?" "No," said Anna, "but Mama says if I grow any more, my coat won't even cover my pants," as soon as the words were out of her mouth. She wished she had not said them. It was not the sort of thing one said to a great aunt one hardly knew. "What?" said Great Aunt Sarah. Anna could feel herself blushing. "A moment," said Great Aunt Sarah, and suddenly, from somewhere about her person, she produced an object like a trumpet. "There," she said, putting the thin end not to her mouth, as Anna had half expected, but to her ear. "Now say it again, child, very loudly, into my trumpet." Anna tried desperately to think of something quite different that she could say instead, and that would still make sense, but her mind remained blank. There was nothing for it. "Mama says," she shouted into the ear trumpet, "that if I grow any more, my coat won't even cover my pants." With that, she withdrew her face, and when she withdrew her face, she could feel that she had gone scarlet. Great Aunt Sarah seemed taken aback for a moment. Then her face crumpled up, and a noise somewhere between a wheeze and a chuckle escaped from it. "Quite right," she cried, her black eyes dancing. "Your mamma is quite right. But what is she going to do about it, eh?" Then she added to Mamma, "Such a funny child, such a nice funny child you have." And rising from the chair with surprising agility, she said, "So now you must come and have some tea. There are some old ladies here who have been playing bridge, but I'll soon get rid of them." And she led the way at a gentle gallop into the drawing room. The first thing that struck Anna about Great Aunt Sarah's old ladies was that they all looked a good deal younger than Great Aunt Sarah. There were about a dozen of them, all elegantly dressed with elaborate hats. They had finished playing bridge. Anna could see the card tables pushed back against the wall, and were now drinking tea and helping themselves to tiny biscuits, which the maid was handing round on a silver tray. "Every Thursday they come," whispered Great Aunt Sarah in German. "Poor old things. They have nothing better to do, but they're all very rich, and they give me money for my needy children." Anna, who had only just got over her surprise at Great Aunt Sarah's old ladies, found it even more difficult to imagine her with needy children, or indeed with any children at all. But she did not have time to ponder the problem, for she was being loudly introduced along with Mamma. "My niece and her daughter have come from Germany," shouted Great Aunt Sarah in French, but with a strong German accent. "Say bonsoir," she whispered to Anna. "Bonjour," said Anna. Great Aunt Sarah threw up her hands in admiration. "Listen to the child," she cried. "Only a few weeks she has been in Paris, and already she speaks French better than I." Anna found it difficult to keep up this impression when one of the ladies tried to engage her in conversation, but she was saved from further efforts when Great Aunt Sarah's voice boomed out again. "I have not seen my niece for years," she shouted, "and I have been longing to have a talk with her." At this, the ladies hurriedly drank up their tea and began to make their farewells. As they shook hands with Great Aunt Sarah, they dropped some money into a box which she held out to them, and she thanked them. Anna wondered just how many needy children Great Aunt Sarah had got. Then the maid escorted the ladies to the door, and at last they had all disappeared. It was nice and quiet without them, but Anna noticed with regret that the silver tray with the little biscuits had disappeared, along with the ladies, and that the maid was gathering up the empty cups and carrying them out of the room. Great Aunt Sarah must have forgotten her promise of tea. She was sitting on the sofa with Mamma and telling her about her needy children. It turned out they were not her own after all, but a charity for which she was collecting money. And Anna, who had briefly pictured Great Aunt Sarah with a secret string of ragged urchins, felt somehow cheated. She wriggled restlessly in her chair, and Great Aunt Sarah must have noticed, for she suddenly interrupted herself. "The child is bored and hungry," she cried, and added to the maid, "Have the old ladies all gone?" The maid replied that they had. "Well then," cried Great Aunt Sarah, "you can bring in the real tea." A moment later, the maid staggered back under a tray loaded with cakes. There must have been 5 or 6 different kinds, apart from an assortment of sandwiches and biscuits. There was also a fresh pot of tea, chocolate and whipped cream. "I like cakes," said Great Aunt Sarah in answer to Mamma's look of astonishment, "but it's no use offering them to those old ladies. They're much too careful with their diets, so I thought we'd have our tea after they'd gone." So saying, she slapped a large portion of apple flan onto a plate, topped it with whipped cream, and handed it to Anna. "The child needs feeding," she said. During tea, she asked Mamma questions about Papa's work and about the flat, and sometimes Mamma had to repeat her answers into the ear trumpet. Mamma talked about everything quite cheerfully, but Great Aunt Sarah kept shaking her head and saying, "To have to live like this! Such a distinguished man!" She knew all Papa's books and bought the Daily Parisian, specially to read his articles. Every so often she would look at Anna, saying, "And the child, so skinny!" and ply her with more cake. At last, when no one could eat any more, Great Aunt Sarah heaved herself out from behind the tea table and set off at her usual trot toward the door, beckoning to Mamma and Anna to follow. She led them to another room which seemed to be entirely filled with cardboard boxes. "Look," she said, "all this I have been given for my needy children." The boxes were filled with lengths of cloth in all sorts of different colors and thicknesses. "One of my old ladies is married to a textile manufacturer," explained Great Aunt Sarah. "So he is very rich, and he gives me all the ends of material he does not want. Now I have an idea. Why shouldn't the child have some of it? After all, it is for needy children, and she is as needy as most. No, no, said Mamma. I don't think I could. Ah, always so proud, said Great Aunt Sarah. The child needs new clothes. Why shouldn't she have some? She rummaged in one of the boxes and pulled out some thick woolen material in a lovely shade of green. Just nice for a coat, she said. And a dress she needs, perhaps a skirt. In no time at all, she had assembled a pile of clothes on the bed, and when Mamma tried again to refuse, she only cried, Such nonsense! You want the police should arrest the child for going about with her pants showing? At this, Mamma, who had, in any case, not been protesting very hard, had to laugh and give in. The maid was asked to wrap it all up, and when it was time to leave, Mamma and Anna each had a big parcel to carry. Thank you very, very much, Anna shouted into Great Aunt Sarah's ear trumpet. I've always wanted a green coat. I wish you luck to wear it, Great Aunt Sarah shouted back. Then they were outside, and as Anna and Mamma walked back in the dark, they talked all the way about the different pieces of material and what they could be made into. As soon as they got home, Mamma telephoned Madame Fernand, who was delighted and said they must bring everything round the following Thursday for a great dressmaking session. Won't it be lovely? Cried Anna. I can't wait to tell Papa. And just then Papa came in. She told him excitedly what had happened. And I'll be able to have a dress and a coat, she gabbled. And Great Aunt Sarah just gave it to us because they were meant for needy children, and she said I was as needy as most, and we had a lovely tea. She stopped because of the expression on Papa's face. What is all this? He said to Mamma. It's just as Anna told you, said Mamma. And there was something careful about her voice. Great Aunt Sarah had a whole lot of cloth which was given to her, and she wanted Anna to have some. But it had been given to her for needy children, said Papa. That's only what it was called, said Mamma. She's interested in various charities. She's a very kind woman. Charities, said Papa. But we can't accept charity for our children. Oh, why must you always be so difficult? Shouted Mamma. The woman is my aunt, and she wanted Anna to have some clothes. That's all there is to it. Honestly, Papa, I don't think she meant it in any way you wouldn't like, Anna put in. She was feeling miserable and almost wished she had never seen the cloth. It's a present for Anna from a relative, said Mamma. No, said Papa. It's a present from a relative who runs a charity for needy children. All right, then, we'll give it back, shouted Mamma. If that's what you want. But will you tell me what the child is going to wear? Do you know the price of children's clothes in the shops? Look at her, just look at her. Papa looked at Anna, and Anna looked back at him. She wanted the new clothes, but she did not want Papa to feel so badly about them. She tugged at her skirt and made it look longer. Papa, she said. You do look a bit needy, said Papa. His face looked very tired. It doesn't matter, said Anna. Yes, it does, said Papa. It does matter. He fingered the stuff in the parcels. Is this the cloth? She nodded. Well, then, you'd better get it made into some new clothes, said Papa. Something warm, he said, and went out of the room. In bed that night, Anna and Max lay talking in the dark. I didn't know we were needy, said Anna. Why are we? Papa doesn't earn a lot, said Max. The Daily Parisian can't afford to pay him very much for his articles, and the French have their own writers. They used to pay him a lot in Germany. Oh, yes. For a while they lay without talking, then Anna said, Funny, isn't it? What? How we used to think we'd be back in Berlin within 6 months. We've been away for more than a year already. I know, said Max. Suddenly, for no particular reason, Anna remembered their old house so vividly that she could almost see it. She remembered what it felt like to run up the stairs on a little patch of carpet on the landing where she had once spilt some ink, and how you could see the pear tree in the garden from the windows. The nursery curtains were blue, and there was a white painted table to write and draw on, and Bertha the maid had cleaned it all every day, and there had been a lot of toys. But it was no use going on thinking about it, so she closed her eyes and went to sleep. And that's the end of chapter 16.